Subhash, the claim by those who would believe in meaningful synchronicity, or ESP parapsychology, is that there is something about the structure of reality which allows communication to occur beyond the reach of any physical system. From your perspective as a quantum computing expert, or as from your Vedic philosophy scholarship, can there be a legitimacy to synchronicity?
What is ordinary knowledge is rational knowledge. And the idea of rational knowledge is, which is related through associations, ratios. That's where it comes from. Now, if you accept the starting point as being a connection between the inner and the outer, then clearly there is a possibility of knowledge which is extra-rational. So what the Vedic thought assumes is that there is a possibility that extra-rational knowledge which can illuminate our understanding of the outer reality, because that outer reality is a representation in our inner space through a set of equivalences. So clearly, yes, the Vedic system does accept it. And personally, I think indeed from my own experience as a scientist and as a scholar, I have had situations in my life where out of nowhere I have come by an insight for which I didn't have any basis in previous chain of happenings which would have led to that information. As an example of that, in 1992, I was reading the New Yorker magazine, the essay on the last page by John Updike, where in this particular essay, he was speaking of this fact that the size of the sun and the moon looking from the earth is about the same, which is why eclipses occur. And the moment I read this, I had this overwhelming feeling that this fact had something to do with the basis of the altar ritual, which was a part of the Vedic times. And I rushed to my library, I looked it up, and very soon I came to understand this astronomical basis, which apparently had been forgotten for a couple of thousand years. And that led us to a period of astronomical background or context of Indian astronomy, which took us back by another couple of thousand years. And so there was no basis. Updike clearly had nothing to do with this. And then suddenly, in that particular moment, I seem to have come across this. And I'm sure a lot of the other scientists, Roger Penrose speaks of it in his autobiography, how he came by his solution to the irregular tiling problem when he was crossing the street in Oxford. And we know about Jacques Hadamard and many other scientists also who make similar claims, or Kekule's discovery of the structure of the benzene ring in the 1850s in a dream where he saw 6 snakes holding the tail of the next one in its mouth in a ring.
Well, all of these explanations in terms of scientific discovery, have a different explanation, that you had some background. This occurred to you as an Indian national who studied in India, and you're familiar with that. It didn't happen to me. If I could have read that, and I wouldn't have had that. If I had it and I knew nothing about Indian philosophy, then it would maybe have more of a synchronicity. I think this could be based on just knowledge that you had, as well as other people at different times. The issue in synchronicity is when something that has absolutely no relationship in any way suddenly has meaning, or you suddenly have a thought of there's going to be a disaster in Chicago, and I don't know why, then suddenly there is, and people have that. The argument against that, of course, is that there are so many coincidences that don't occur, an infinite number of coincidences, and you don't know about those. The only ones you know are the ones that happen, and so therefore you give special meaning to that.
My understanding of this is that we ought to see what knowledge is about. How is knowledge obtained? The general idea right now is that knowledge is information in a vessel. But that's not what the ancients thought. The ancients thought that knowledge was like a light inside the mind, which helps us illuminate different corners of the mind. And this is, in fact, also stated in the Republic, in one of the dialogues that Socrates has, where he brings a untutored person, and he says that I'm going to prove that this person knows geometry even though he's never studied it. If you ask the right kind of questions, then knowledge can be uncovered. So the Indian view is that knowledge can be uncovered. It's already there, but it can be uncovered only by the prepared mind. And normally, there are all kinds of amazing things happening all around us, and we don't make any sense of it because we are not prepared for it. And therefore, whatever you uncover, you cannot uncover something which is totally disconnected with your mind, with the knowledge system that you already possess. And therefore, what you can uncover has to be related to what you already know. And therefore, preparation is of the essence. Without preparation, you cannot come by it.
But with the preparation, you're saying you can, through your inner experience, be in touch with the totality of reality. So those things that are meaningful that you don't have rational access to, you can still have access to, and then bring it into your knowledge base if you have this preparation beforehand.
Well, the mind, our logical mind, has to structure the information that it possesses. And it can only structure it through accretion, through gradual enlargement. So if something that doesn't conform to this structure comes in, you would project it on what you know. And therefore, that particular knowledge may eventually later on come to have an interpretation, which is very different from how it was intuited. So in other words, I think the whole question is, how does intuition work? Intuition doesn't work in a linguistic fashion. There's some kind of a flash. There's something. You feel sort of anxious, or you feel that there's something that's happened to you. And then you eventually grasp it through language, because our inner discourse is linguistic. And therefore, it can only be related by the person who's obtained this intuition to things that that person already knows.
But you are requiring, for this to occur, for consciousness to be a non-physical, penetrating reality.
Absolutely. Consciousness is then more than our bodies, more than our brains, and in the Vedic view, it sort of interpenetrates the entire cosmos. And in fact, it's what holds the whole physical cosmos together. And the physical cosmos is a projection of this reality. And that's why it's transcendent, because it cannot have any qualities. It cannot be in space and time. And in fact, the Vedic texts say that this reality is as small as you can think and as large as you can think. So it has this paradoxical aspect. It's as small as you can think. It's just like how our inner personal consciousness also works. You can provide arguments to say that it's at a specific point, but you can also say that it pervades your entire body, and it's also connected to your whole social self.